Guys, we have two awesome trades to go over today, one of them being this 160% gainer that I made on AMD puts. This was an earnings trade, which means of course it's going to be volatile, but the cool thing about this one is that we actually made more than 100%, which means even if there was a 50-50 chance that I would have either lost all or made all, in this case we actually made more than all at almost 200% of my initial investment. So let me show you guys exactly how I found this trade. Then after that, we're going to take a look at this day trade I took on AMD, because I think these are very important as well. Even though they don't return the same amount, it's still very important to know why we're taking these day trades, because these can actually make you a lot of money, especially if you're as consistent as I've been recently using these strategies. So like I said, the very first setup we're going to be looking at is this AMD trade. It is pretty simple. We're using the earnings EPS strategy that I'll make a full YouTube video on in a couple of days. But with that being said, I would appreciate if you guys would go ahead and like and subscribe, because I post these trade recaps all the time, and I'll have my exact earnings strategy video coming out probably within the next week. So with that all being said, let's talk about exactly why I entered this trade. So we took quite a few earnings trades this week that this happened. This was already a couple weeks back, but AMD was probably the easiest one, or maybe the second easiest one. Of course, all were using the same strategy. In this case, we wanted to take puts for a couple reasons. The main one being that, of course, it had been in an uptrend for a while. I'm not going to zoom out all the way. We can see it's actually falling here, but you know, it's been rising like crazy with Nvidia, so we knew there was definitely room to keep falling down, especially if they didn't announce anything crazy during earnings. So that's already a good sign when you have something that's already overextended before earnings. But let me show you guys the key factor, because there's always one very important thing that I look for in these earnings trades. So what I'm looking for is, if we scroll down here on TradingView, and you can do this with Robinhood or Cash App or whatever broker you use, I think maybe even Webull has this option, you can check their EPS history. In this case, we see EPS has been rising for a while, and then they ended up missing their latest EPS before this, but the next expected EPS was much further down. That's a great sign, especially considering that, like we saw, AMD was already very overextended, so a move down would possibly start a downtrend for AMD. So that's already really good, and as we can see after that, it wasn't like very sharp, but it did have a pretty significant move down. Of course, it has risen back up, and that's because Nvidia just reported positive earnings, and AMD has been following Nvidia for a while now, so that's expected, but we can definitely see this play out very, very well. With that being said, that's basically all there is to it. Like I said, this was a very easy one because we had two good scenarios here where we have an overextended stock and EPS is expected to fall quite significantly. Now that isn't the whole strategy, but typically that'll be enough for me to go short on an earnings trade. Now, with this day trade, let's go ahead and switch over to this. Why did I go long? And you will notice I actually ended up closing before the take profit would have hit. And yes, it did end up hitting eventually all the way over here. Almost perfect actually. Almost perfectly, excuse me, actually before it ended up rejecting. But I actually sold early just because I don't like to be in day trades for a while when I don't see a lot of action after, I don't know, like half an hour. At that point, I just assume, and you guys can see it was already getting kind of close to lunch hour anyway, and so I didn't want to keep the trade open. But why did I go long? Why did I enter this position going long with call options? Well, we had seen this zone on the 15-minute chart for a while, where every single time that it got into this zone, we saw a very, very quick move up, and we saw it again in this case. Let me see what happened after this. So here, we would not have gone long because we didn't see a great rejection, and we only did here, and we would have gone long here, assuming we had seen nice rejections playing out. So like here, we already saw this move up. All I did then was wait for it to come back down very near the zone before going back long. So this trade I actually took live with our Discord members. So I'm going to link the Discord in the description. Of course, you don't have to join that, but you can get a week for free, like a free trial where I just show you guys all my trades I'm taking live. With that being said, thank you guys very much for watching, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.